the noise down to a little signal for people and just make it easier.
Cool. And Joe, one of my viewer asked me a couple questions, and they asked me to ask founder, which is you, right? So there are many minor projects in the space, let's say in Japan, or maybe in Philippines or in Singapore. Does LunarCrush covers all these early phase project as well? Am I right, Joe? Like, what's the coverage for this data coverage? Yeah.
Right now we have about 3,500 coins that are listed, but we don't charge people to get listed. We don't do any of that. So we have a section where people can come on and they basically just apply to get listed. And really all that is helping us kind of speed up that process of adding projects. But we're out there every day just adding as many new projects as we can. So right now, I think I was looking at a couple of the different aggregators. There's technically 55,000 cryptocurrencies.
Oh, okay.
And so the difference though is that when you're trying to kind of aggregate and understand from a social perspective, it's not just I grab price and I'm done, right? The price is the price of the price. There's different markets. It's very simple. When you're trying to understand what the picture looks like from a social perspective, there's a little bit more research that goes into understanding what that collection would look like. And so we've spent a lot of time building models out and, understanding what spam looks like and everything else so that we're correctly pulling in the data that we want to see that would help kind of create the transparency. So anyone that's out there can get listed, and we're trying to add as many as seemingly possible at all times so that, we see people always ask us well, why would you list a meme coin, or why would you, post something that is a known scam? And I'd be well, first off, how do you know something was a known scam until afterwards? Just because you don't believe in the mission of that. And so that comes from people not understanding that there's just been a shift in, when someone can invest in something. And it's what would you call your neighbor's idea that they just have off the top of their head for new toasters a scam just because they haven't come up with it yet? No, they're just at the idea phase. But for us, our responsibility is to, if we don't showcase that data of that new token, who's going to do that? Who's going to protect that person? And so part of that decision-making process comes and says, wow, this project started 4 days ago and there is a ton of volume on it. And maybe a large subset of that volume ends up being spam, which we check. So that's a insight for someone to look at that maybe they did not have before, where they're looking in some sort of feed and they're just seeing a lot of something. So for us, we see our responsibility as covering everything as to protect people and have at least a data point to look at.
That's exciting. I mean, you have NFTs as well, right, Joe? NFT?
Yeah, just this week we actually launched LunarCrush for NFTs.
So exciting.
Yeah, starting with Ethereum, we're adding projects and same sort of process. Added as many as we could, where we felt we had a nice feel for what the market looked like, and now it's aggregating that data, understanding what that looks like over time. So that, you think about, like I said earlier, without a community, there's no crypto. When you think about NFTs, it is pure community, right? That is what drives some of this. And with NFTs, I see it actually as the beginning of something larger. But each NFT project is kind of this, in my mind, in my opinion, the beginning of something bigger, beginning of a DAO. It's the test of an idea that they're going to go and build something kind of bigger than that. Some are just pure art, which is amazing. I love it. But yeah, we wanted to be a part of that community more. We all have NFTs. We're all stoked on it. We love the communities. We love the people. We love the music. We love the art. And so for us, it was just a natural progression.
Cool. And Joe, I have a question similar to this topic. So I believe a lot of Web3 users have their point of view. Every comment they have, I believe they have a value on it. So whoever uses LunarCrush and share your insight, would there be any incentives to these Web3 users? Let's say this Japanese people joined your platform, and then they will share the world their unique insight about each project. Would there be any benefit to these users, or can you maybe share us about structure? Yeah.
I think what maybe people don't realize is, on LunarCrush first, we don't track anything about you. There are no cookies on our site. Very different than, a Web2 company that's out there trying to monetize your data, trying to monetize who you are, trying to sell you some sort of subscription service that's out there. For us, if you have a Lunar token, you can earn it. You can go buy it on a DEX or a centralized exchange or whatever it may be to get access to these higher levels, right? But then you hold that value that's yours, right? So if our product is no longer good, or we stink, or you don't like us, or something happens, you can at least take that value with you, right? Where like a traditional kind of SaaS company, you think about like an Alexa or something like that, you're just training their machine all day, training the machine learning, training the AI, and like you still pay them for that. You get nothing, right? You get like, hey, what's the weather today, right? Like, I don't think that's a fair trade-off. So that's kind of like, I would say, square one with the way that we kind of wanted to think about things. And so the way that the token and the way that the system feeds into that is, you can earn your way up. So you don't actually have to pay for it if you're kind of showing this proof of community. So if you do share insights, those insights get a lot of engagement, you become part of the community. You can actually earn points every day just for doing all the things that you normally do on LunarCrush. And at the end of every day, we kind of rank everyone and the proof of the community that they had. And then there's a subset of token that gets distributed out every day, and then once a week as well. And so every day, everyone's out there kind of sharing insights, and you can share a bunch of insights that don't make sense and try to spam out there, but no one's going to click on that, right? So like, we reward people that are out there providing like solid recommendations and contextual things. And so whatever kind of engagement that's getting, it's kind of like what we do well is understand that engagement. People get rewarded for that.
Cool. Just for your information, I'm about to move to level 2, just for
Nice.
FYI.
Awesome. Congrats.
Thank you. So let's go back to your project. So I'm sure you have a lot of plan or new events coming up this year, next year. So what's the roadmap right now, and which phase are you in, Joe? Like, can you share us the future story, to the viewers in Japan? Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, we have, I would say, been delivering and shipping very, very fast for like a team of our size and a product of our size. And so, I think a lot of projects and companies right now, we're in this kind of bear market. It's a, sideways trading. You've got a lot of kind of uncertainty around inflation. You've got a lot of uncertainty around, does this pandemic continue in some sort of way? And, I'm not going to give an opinion, but like, what happens in Europe with what's going on in Ukraine and Russia, and how does that kind of get resolved, or does it get resolved? And so I think right now, every founder and, every CEO out there is kind of looking at that market and saying, where do we sit right now? What's impactful? You're seeing a lot of people like laying off employees, and then you're seeing probably companies that, even if they are well capitalized, probably taking advantage of that opportunity, and which I guess you could say taking advantage, but to kind of, reduce capital expenditures. So just right now, we're kind of looking out there and seeing what's happening, right? Like, we have a lot of new things that we've launched over the last couple of months, and we're going to continue to iterate and optimize on all of those things. We've got a lot. We have to add new sections to the NFTs. Like, we don't hold Solana, we don't hold Tezos, we don't hold Stacks. So we want to make sure that all of those communities are represented in the right way. We want to continue to provide the cleanest kind of set of data out there. So we launched something called LunarCrush Sparks. So on our dashboard, you can actually upvote or downvote or score any of the content that's on there.
Oh, cool.
And so what you're actually doing is it's going into kind of this queue of information where we're looking at that. And then across kind of our user base, there's different people with different profile scores, which is based on, their profile strength. So if they are someone that has a high profile strength, that probably means that they have a pretty solid trading history, or they have a pretty solid social history. And so that's going to be a little bit more impactful than maybe that someone that just joined that doesn't have a lot of history in the space. And so what we're doing now is kind of training data at scale. So as opposed, like, for anyone that kind of understands how machine learning works, it's just all about training. Largest subset of data, who has the most training data, how accurate is that? How do you cross-train those things? And so for us, we have this initiative where we are trying to continue to create the cleanest set of data possible. And what that means is having the largest training set of crypto-specific data out there. So that's something that we're working on, which I think, people might not necessarily see directly very flashy up front, but, we call ourselves an analytics and a data company that just happens to build community. For us, we're focused on that because at the end of the day, that does end up providing a lot better experience for the user, a lot more contextual relevant information is coming to you. So very focused on that. We do have a couple of, very interesting, I was surprised. I don't know if it's a surprise, everything that's new is a surprise, but when you look at like items that you launch and like the level where they're at, we've got one really pretty epic thing that I'm thinking maybe end of the summer, maybe a little bit further out, a little bit before that. So people, I think, have something really cool to look forward to.
Really?
Yeah, where it's I wouldn't say it's out of left field, but it's going to be a pretty epic thing that we're going to launch here in the next couple of months. And on top of that, it's for us, we have got a large brand, a big community, and it's bringing more people in. It's letting people know about what we stand for. And, being out there in a time where, we've been through the bear cycles before, and, a lot of people are out there, portfolios are down 80%. For us, we believe in, Bitcoin, we believe in the Web3 space, we believe in crypto. I believe that, sure, a lot of the tokens that are here today might not exist in the future, but there will be many more projects being built and companies and iterations of what's out there in the future. So super excited for that, and super excited for our team and the roadmap and everything that we're building. I mean, if you look at the last couple of months and you see what we've launched and what's been out there, just expect the same.
Yeah, we can't wait to hear what's coming next this summer or this year. Joe, thank you. All right. So let's go back to a bit general topic. Since you are the founder in Web3 space, I've been asking this question to every Web3 founders in different region, in Asia, in US, in Africa. What's your definition of Web3 to you? Sorry for a simple question, but so what's Web3? People have different understanding of Web3. Is it just only crypto, or what is it, Joe? Yeah.
That's a great one, man. I might have to go back and see what everyone else said on that. At like Web3, any sort of like branding term that gets out there, I think is interesting. And like that one, it was like people gravitated towards it, and it just kind of grabbed, even with kind of people in this space. I would say, there's an interesting way to think about that, but I think it's basically, you can define it as any sort of initiative, technology, product, or service that's touching or kind of the core of that offering ends up having a piece of decentralized ledger technology as being kind of like the core piece. So it's like, an example might be, if a large brand in the US is going to launch an NFT run, and that NFT run gets people rights and access to stores or conferences or whatever it is, it's like, that's like a Web3 initiative, right? It's an initiative, and it's a kind of a standalone potentially, but it's still Web3, right? And so I think it's like, you're going to see, just like a lot of companies needed that, 20 years ago, the digital transformation, they're going to need like a Web3 strategy. And so I think it's anything that's kind of rooted as, the decentralized ledger technology that's kind of the main or largest percentage of like the project or initiative that's out there. But I think it's like, just like the internet and like cloud and everything else, it's like crypto and Web3 kind of needs to fall to the wayside in a way. And like the customer and the product or the service and the brand needs to kind of stand true, because at the end of the day, like, anyone that's interacting with the technology, like they just want a slightly better experience or a better experience. It's like, man, if you can't deliver the experience like on par, if not better, like what's the switching cost, or why would I? There's not enough people that are out there that are saying, they're not maybe as worried about having direct and complete ownership over what is theirs. They're probably more today than there were a couple of years ago, but it's probably still not enough to make like a true impact. And so, people need to understand that it's not truly about Web3. Web3 is going to be a little bit more in the background. And so what people need to do is really understand, how do you have people interact with the technology and get the autonomy and security and custody of what they're doing with the same experience that they're used to with a Web2. And I think that's really hard for the venture folks and maybe people that are kind of funding in the space to understand, because they're used to assessing the market where, hey, what's the growth? What's the 10-year growth of what's going on? But they're assessing that from a top line growth. They're not basically understanding that from a disruption and a decay of like the margin out there. So what I mean by that is like, if Bank of America is supplanted by a DeFi protocol. Bank of America's margin to pay their employees and to own the buildings and pay the rent and overhead of whatever else is out there is a large percentage, and that gets passed along to the customer 99% of the time, plus more on top of that. With Web3, with crypto, with DeFi, at least right now, and then in the future with more tokens and coins that are out there, it is a much more efficient way with a community to provide the same service or value. So if you're looking at, we'll just call it a bank, right? Savings and loan, lending out money, holding money, like sure, there's probably some like trading activities and capital markets, things that happen on one side, but for the most part, savings and loan and mortgages and everything else, pretty simple, right? So like one kind of DeFi lending network that's, potentially whether it's pools or whether it's borrowing and lending, there's market prices there, can be done, by maybe 30 people in the community and have the same impact as maybe a 100,000 person business. And so like, I always kind of pointed that as anyone that's like, what's the utility? What's going on here? I'm like, even if at the end of the day, all crypto did was like disrupt all the banks, like that's probably like a pretty big deal. But it's also much more than that. So yeah, long-winded answer that it's this kind of underlying thing. And I guess anything that touches or is rooted in that is Web3 to me.
Thanks for sharing that. Yeah. And I think a lot of Web3 users are looking for a new experience and project out there in the space. Are there any specific field or sector or project that you keep your eyes on these days? If you have anything, can you maybe share the viewers? Yeah.
I'm looking at everything. I mean, and the nice part about LunarCrush is I get to kind of just like cheerlead the industry.
All right. Yeah.
I get really excited about, the projects that have really exciting and fun teams that are not afraid to kind of push the boundaries of what's possible. I would say like, even with where DeFi is at, I feel like there's a lot more to go there. And so it's like, I'm still very excited about that. Maybe it's just because I'm so rooted in like finance and understanding what's going on there, but there's just so many products that haven't been built yet, right? Like, I think I know like 1 or 2 projects that are working on, mortgages, for example, and over collateralizing loans. And, there's a couple like fundamental pieces that need to be solved there of like identity and like scoring of what's going on. Well, because the way you get a loan is you have a FICO score, so you have a credit score, and like at least in the US here, and banks lend money to you based on like your income and what that score is. And we don't really have that in crypto yet, right? And so people can only borrow less than they have, which is like fine for like certain things, but that's just to like optimize money and kind of have a different asset than you currently have, which like that's not the value creation that's happening. Like lending, over collateralized lending is what creates just tons of value, right? It's what allows people to own homes, which is allowing someone to live with their family and be a part of something and be a neighborhood and a community and all that. And so there's a lot around DeFi that I still think needs to be built, that I'm looking for who's going to solve that, right? So like right now, it's like, I know a lot of people are looking at metaverse, they're looking at NFTs. Like I'm definitely more bullish on like NFTs and DAOs and the structure there. That structure is super interesting to me, but like, I still keep coming back to like DeFi didn't have its like true day yet. It was all built in speculation. It was built in, like if you think about some of the LP tokens that are out there, they all are going to zero. Like there's no utility. They just keep, they're trying to burn as many as they can to prop up prices. It's like, that doesn't seem like very sustainable to me. But what's sustainable is borrowing and lending in real time. You should know exactly how much money I have, what my income is in real time. You should know this trustlessly so you don't know who I am. At any given second, I should be able to press the button that allows me to get money that's lended to me, similar as getting pre-approved for a loan or an auto loan or wherever. Like, why does that need to go to like underwriting and everything? Like, it's just a facade. It's like the numbers should be there. And so I think it's like that being solved will change a lot. And so I'm excited to see what happens there.
So this is just a beginning of the new era. Is that correct?
Yes. People have underestimated how big and how impactful this all is, because the speed of information nowadays is so fast that it kind of outgrows itself and has these kind of big booms and busts. But at the end of the day, it's still a faster growth rate than most technologies and asset classes out there.
Right. Gotcha. Thank you.
Yeah.
And Joe, I think this is almost time actually, unfortunately, but maybe do you have any comments, to the viewer in Japan, not only in Japan, maybe around the world? Yeah. Can you share your last comment, Joe? Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's whether you're in Japan or whether you're in Australia or you're in the US or anywhere in Europe or anywhere, I think there's something cool about our industry is, we used to go to conferences back in the day, and like it was so interesting because there were so many different types of people, but there was some sort of thread holding all of these people together. There was some sort of commonality where it was like we all wanted to see the world be built in a slightly different way. And you're just seeing so many things out there right now where, whether it's animosity, whether it's, you just not doing enough research to understand what's going on. It's my call to action would be, gain the perspective of your neighbor, gain the perspective of someone across the world, and understand what they're going through, understand how they grew up, understand where they came from. And crypto and Web3 kind of enables that. Like, look at us talking here right now, right? This is not like, if we were, in the insurance industry, you think we would not be talking here right now, right? It would be like, hey, go to some conference, it's the most boring thing on the planet. But with crypto, there's some sort of culture that's built around it. So I would say anyone that's looking to join an industry, it is like the kindest, most helpful people once you get to kind of this core group of people that are here. And it's just take the jump, just come work in this industry. Now's the best time, right? It's like bear market, people are building, it's only the best people left. There's all the speculation stuff. It's like, getting rooted out. It's like, man, come work in it right now and find the good people and just be a part of it. Because even if you come work in an industry or you go do a startup, where you end up after that, even if it fails, which is no actual failures, there's just learning, you're going to be much further ahead than sitting in a cubicle at a bank or working somewhere else. So it's like, take the risk. There is no risk. There's only growth.
Thank you. And do you have any plan to fly to Tokyo, Japan in near future, Joe?
I want to. I've been before. It was a very quick trip, but we've got some folks on our team that love it over there, and they keep kind of pushing me to go over there. So like it's on the list. It's a very close one at the top of the list as well.
All right.
Get over there, and man, I want to get into all the streets, try all the food, hang out with people, take public transit, and just get right into the heart of it. I love doing that, and I love meeting everyone. So I heard it's a very, very, very beautiful place and a lot of amazing people. And I wish I didn't just only fly through the airport.
Happy to hear that. Yeah, we're waiting, Joe, in Japan. Yeah. All right. Thank you very much for your time today. I think this is the end of the show, and I will share his Twitter account about the project on the below on the channel, and I'm sure a lot of fans here and the viewer will start LunarCrush. Yeah. Thank you very much, Joe.
Thank you, Masa. I appreciate it, man. It's nice meeting you.
Thank you.